Welcome back to Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, your host. that's a big surprise, right? Yeah. Welcome back to Comics with Drew, and here's a video about a good thing. I do like to do videos where I talk about how terrible things are and how certain comics are hot trash or the hottest of trash, as you might imagine. But there are times when I read great comic books, and I find books that have so much depth and so much maturity in the writing that it's something that you can't really gloss over. You don't want to just give out all the bad stuff. You want to put out some positive vibes into the world and onto your YouTube channel. So I wanted to talk today about Flashpoint Beyond. So I just got done reading. you know, I get so many books that I don't usually have enough time to read them, and so they wind up sitting around my office just stacking up. And then I just buy a new bag of comics and I bring them back and I put them there, and I get them disorganized, and I don't know where things are. And then I find one peeking out and I think, oh, I should probably read that. That's written by Jeff Johns. But I didn't have a chance to get to it. So I finally realized that I had, I went and I fished them all out from around the room here, and I stacked them all together. And I said, I'm just going to read this front to back. And so I read, I'm not familiar with the original Flashpoint. I do not read Flash comic books. And it's not that I don't like Flash. In fact, I love the Flash. The Flash character is actually one of my favorite characters. When I was little, I don't know what it is. Maybe you guys know out there, you wonderful audience members. You may know that, or you may be of the opinion that the Flash and the Green Lantern go together like peas and carrots, right? Green and reddish orange. They also go together like peanut butter and jelly. And I don't know what it is. When I was a kid, I had a Flash action figure and I had a Green Lantern action figure, and I don't know what it is about that color combination, but they just kind of go together, which is why I find it kind of cosmically funny that Jeff Johns is famous for revitalizing the Flash and also Green Lantern. So, and I'm also doing some Green Lantern deep dives right now because I have the Absolute Green Lantern Rebirth that I want to go ahead and review. I still have 3 volumes of the Jeff Johns Green Lantern Omnibus, which I still have not gotten through. So anyway, so the bottom line is, I finally sat down and I had all 7 of these books, right? So you have 0, and then you got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So anyway, I had not read the Flashpoint stuff, and I was not familiar with what was going on. I had a bit of a hint that Thomas Wayne was somehow Batman, and I had seen this in some of Tom King's uh, unfortunate run on Batman. I didn't really know the backstory, so I went and I picked this book up, right? And this is the Flashpoint Batman Night of Vengeance. This is revisit Thomas Wayne's origin story in time for Flashpoint Beyond. So I read this and I was like, this is really interesting. So if you're not familiar with Flashpoint, I'm not going to get too far into it. Suffice it to say, Flashpoint is an alternate timeline where Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne survive their robbery in the alley, and Bruce Wayne is killed. And so Thomas Wayne, in his bitterness, becomes this weird kind of dark version of Batman, which is kind of funny to say dark version of Batman, but he's vengeful kind of Batman, right? And Martha Wayne turns out to be the Joker, right? Her destiny is screwed up, and she becomes the Joker because she's driven crazy by Bruce's murder. So that's what basically it is. It's an alternate timeline where Thomas Wayne is running around, whacking dudes and just being an all around super violent and no F's left to give type of Batman. This really comes about because Barry Allen screws up time by going back to save his mom. And so, to make a long story short, time masters get involved. This is this weird kind of group of characters that control time, and they wind up determining that Thomas Wayne needs to die because that's how the timelines are supposed to work. At the end of Flashpoint, Thomas Wayne, as he's dying, gives a letter to Barry Allen to give to Bruce, and because Barry has told him that in the real timeline, the correct timeline, Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. So Batman reads this letter, and there's something in the letter that prompts Bruce to go save his father because Bruce believes in people. Bruce Wayne as Batman really is an internal optimist, right? You know, and I wonder if that might be why I like Batman so much, because I kind of like tend to be an optimist with things. And so he tries to find the best in people. That's why Batman doesn't kill. The rule for modern comics is that Batman doesn't kill. And the reason why, ultimately, even though they may not necessarily state it explicitly, or maybe the writers don't even understand it, but the reason why is Bruce Wayne believes ultimately that everybody can be redeemed. That's the whole point of Batman. That brings us to Flashpoint Beyond. So Jeff Johns comes back to DC and he decides that he's got an idea, right? And this book series is written by Johns and was it Taylor Sheridan and Jeremy Adams. I'm not sure how this is getting written, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know who's writing the dialogue. I don't know if it's plot or whatnot. So I'm just going to, attribute this to Johns. So with apologies to the other two gentlemen, they may have written more of this. I don't know, but I'm just going to talk about Johns for this. So with all due respect. So the book, it's a 7-issue miniseries, and I highly recommend that you read it. I cannot recommend it enough. It is, I think, one of the best examples of serious writing and serious storytelling in comics these days. And the reason why is because it's true to the characters. The fact of the matter is that a lot of comic book characters, a lot of the big time S tier characters, they're enduring because they really speak to the psychological makeup of humankind, right? And that's why they continue to be popular through the decades. And when you have a writer who understands why this is, then you can get some really amazing stories. It's one of these things where you can settle in and really get deep into it. It's not a superficial read, and you have to pay attention, and it's not something you can just go bang, 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 bang through. You really need to pay attention to it. But doing so, you will be really deeply rewarded with it. The whole book is based upon Thomas Wayne trying to find why there's this clockwork killer running around trying to kill all these different time traveling types of characters in the Flashpoint timeline. And meanwhile, there's this alternate story, this parallel story, where Bruce Wayne is trying to save his father based upon the letter that Thomas Wayne gave him via Barry Allen. And in the meantime, Bruce Wayne, in the regular standard timeline, he's trying to save his dad from disappearing because he ultimately believes in the goodness of his father. The Time Masters are trying to hunt down Bruce to stop him, because what Bruce Wayne is doing as Batman here is questionable. It's funny when I read comics these days, and I read things like, ASM, the Spider-Man stuff. I don't see people really deeply understanding these characters. I see people that think that they might, but they really don't, and they don't know how to, craft a really great narrative. But Johns really does. The reason I wanted to do the video is because of the fact that I wanted to talk about how the story really speaks to, I think, what we really want as comic fans. We want timelessness. We want things that respect the characters and expand the characters and help them grow and mature, or they highlight the great aspects about our characters, maybe aspects that we overlook. And I think one of those things with Batman, especially recently, in recent years, is that we don't really see a lot of why Batman, really leans into doing what he does. Because it seems like what he does often is just crazy. Like it doesn't make sense to let the Joker survive forever, right? Most people would in Batman's position would just whack the Joker because he keeps murdering people. I mean, he's a mass murderer. And this whole story with Flashpoint Beyond is about how Bruce really does believe in people, and he will do everything he can to save lives that he believes are redeemable. And that's the beautiful part of Flashpoint Beyond. You know, it's a great book. It's got a great story. It's got tons of phenomenal characters in it, and it's got a foundation for bringing in a bunch of new stories from older characters that, you know, are super super deep cuts. You know, and I just can't. It's hard to stress just how rewarding and fulfilling it is to read something like this. There is no topical politics in this. There's no social commentary in this book. It's not the kind of stuff that we are typically used to seeing. You pop open a book and it's got someone's, you know, personal diatribe against something that they can't stand about the real world, right? But this story is not about that. This story is about believing in the good in people and learning to cope with grief in a healthy manner, and how dangerous it is to get sucked into, you know, wallowing around and letting tragedy just completely consume you. And I think that it takes a really gifted writer and somebody who is very wise to understand this. The art on the book is phenomenal. I can't really pronounce most of these artists' name, so I'm not going to try to. The book, top to bottom, the production is just amazing. So it's refreshing to see, you know, someone actually care enough about what they're doing to put something that can stand the test of time. I would definitely pick this up in an absolute edition because it's that important, I think, as far as what it does for, you know, really explaining why Batman does what he does, and and celebrating the aspects of Batman that see the good in people, and helping people overcome grief. I think these are things that are important to learn and understand in general, and it's really amazing when you can see it done in a comic book, and or a graphic novel, however you want to say it. So the bottom line is Flashpoint Beyond. I'm sad that I didn't get to it sooner, because it's just an outstanding comic series. It's a mini series, I guess you can call it, and it's just a phenomenal book. It's a phenomenal story all the way around. The character Batman is an optimistic character, you know, on a baseline level, and people, I think, oftentimes miss that. I think writers often miss it because of all the different flashy, you know, Batman stuff that goes on. But he's at heart a character. Bruce is a character who wants to make the world correct. He wants to make the world right. And Thomas Wayne is a lot like that. Bruce Wayne doesn't fall far from the tree. Thomas Wayne is kind of like what Batman would be if he kind of went more towards the rage and vengeance aspect of it. And I think that's one of the things that makes this book so beautiful, is you have that, you know, book ending of these types of portrayals of Batman, but ultimately the greater aspect of it is how each of them, you know, rises above the challenges that they are facing to try to live a better life. We have so many comics that suck, and we have so many comics that are focused on things that are stupid, or that writers feel are important but really aren't important, because they're chasing after windmills, they're chasing after straw men that they set on fire and they set up themselves. The best books, the best literature, the stuff that's timeless, the stuff that's really important, is stuff like Flashpoint Beyond. You know, things that speak to the human experience, and the struggle that we all have just trying to get by day, and just trying to deal with things that come up that are challenges. And I think Flashpoint Beyond is a great way of telling people and helping people understand that, you know, it's not all bad in the world, you know, and even in the face of just unimaginable tragedy, you still have to, you know, put one foot forward. You still have to fight through it, because it's not about what really happens to you so much in life. It's about how you deal with what happens to you. And when you have a book like this, when you have a story like this that kind of helps you with that, that's something that is going to be an enduring story. this isn't just a great miniseries. This isn't just a great comic book. This is, in my opinion, one of the best graphic novels and best stories. It's definitely one of the best Batman stories ever written. Flashpoint Beyond. If you've not read it, you can probably still pick up the issues as back issues in your local comic shop, and you can also order the trade paperback off of Amazon, or you can go to any of the bookstores that carry graphic novels. In an ocean of bad comics, this is a this is a lighthouse. This is a shining beacon of wonderful goodness. So I can't recommend it enough. Flashpoint Beyond. It's 0 through 6 actually in the individual issues, and it's gonna. One of the wonderful things about it is that it doesn't just end with this story. That there's a lot of threads that John's plans to start new stories, because he's going to be doing some additional books. I think the New Golden Age is the follow up immediately to this, which I'm going to go get. And I did not realize that was coming out, and I did, because I don't really pay attention to previews and stuff like that. Because why would I do that, right? Yes, Comics with Drew doing a comics channel. Why would I pay attention to that stuff? But I am going to go get it, and I think it's if the writing and storytelling is up to this standard, even if it's half as good as a standard, there to me, I think it's going to be a can't miss. It's going to be a must read type of book. So, and all the books that are springboarding off of this, I think, have the chance to be fantastic. So, anyway, again, Flashpoint Beyond. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing book, and by Jeff Johns and his co-writers. The art is phenomenal. It is a 10. Yeah, I'm just gonna say it's a 10 out of 10. One of the greatest Batman stories ever written, in my opinion, and I highly recommend that you go check it out. So again, thanks for watching Comics with Drew. I'm Drew, and I'll catch you next time.